She was once the most celebrated figure of her day. Now in her 60s, Isla Buchan is virtually forgotten. An alcoholic recluse, Isla hasn't written a word in years. But when Isla is admitted to hospital, she is told she is suffering from acute liver cirrhosis and has only months to live. After 50 years, she returns to her stately childhood home on the small Scottish Isle of Murray. There, she is forced to surrender herself into the care of her cold and status-obsessed sister Audrey. Years of bad blood between the sisters rise to the surface as old wounds are reopened which threaten to accelerate Isla's deterioration. An outcast in her own home, she confides in Audrey's timid teenage maid, Coira. But their unlikely friendship is condemned by both Audrey and the islanders. In her darkest hour, and at her most desperate moment, a secret world reveals itself to Isla. She is drawn to a dark cavern where three beautiful Naiads offer the dying writer one last masterpiece, which will be her legacy and ensure her immortality. But at what price?
The theme of the film revolves around basically desire, and it's a universal emotion that we all have in our character, Isla. She desires to be remembered, basically.
What I think is so fascinating about the story is that you have a mixture of reality and fantasy. You have a very tragic story about a woman that once used to be very, very famous and successful at what she was doing. And all of a sudden you have a certain fantasy creeping into this very, very realistic, tragic story. And first of all you think, where is all this coming from? But then as the story evolves, it all makes perfect sense, because what she wants in the real world is promised in the fantasy world.
The Naiads, the three Naiads are mythical creatures, paganistic creatures, and although they have kind of human form, they are basically creatures, and they are the instigators of the story, of the journey of the character, up until the character meets them. She's basically hopeless, and once she meets them, she develops this desire to change. But the Naiads themselves are fascinating creatures who are can give you your greatest desire, which sounds fantastic, but which in fact would probably be quite terrifying, and even the consequences of your actions if you could actually get what you desired, and they can make that happen.
Many of the themes that the film deals with are so universal to so many of us. With Isla Buchan, you've got someone who, to my mind, has been almost consumed with ambition and a sort of desire to succeed, and a longing even to leave a legacy behind her. I think it's something that we can all relate to, a sort of desperate desire to be remembered after we're gone, and to leave something behind as, more than just a corpse. Now, the house on the Isle of Murray, or indeed the Isle of Arran, which we are borrowing for this, is particularly important in the film. 90% of the action will take place in the house. The house that we hope to pick, the setting within it, is going to be very traditional, very old. It's going to sort of oak panelled, roaring fireplaces, tablecloths almost a sort of Victorian or maybe Georgian sort of feel to it. The house, when we see it at first, the image that we probably get of it is more that it's a cold, lonely sort of place. As the story evolves, the house will take on much more warmth, especially as the relationship between Isla and Coira develops. What I think is particularly important and particularly versatile about this type of house, and many of us will have been in one, is that the rooms in the house can take on the atmosphere of the room of the people within the room, or take on the persona of those people and what's going on. The house will have a feeling of mystique, a feeling of mysteriousness, which will also then have a feeling of warmth, but when we need it to, it's going to feel particularly cold and even a little spooky as well. But the Isle of Arran and indeed Glasgow city centre are going to be important and prominent locations in the film as well. Glasgow and Arran have there's a real contrast there in terms of Isla and what her life now is representing. Glasgow, as we know at the moment, if we live there or if you've visited recently, is an upcoming and sort of bustling metropolis. Many sort of galleries and different other cultures are coming into Glasgow and have been increasingly over the last probably 10 or 15 years now. So that Glasgow really does have that metropolitan feel to it. It is becoming a more sort of cultured city. Whereas obviously we look at Arran, which and the fictional Isle of Murray, as we're going to represent Arran, it's a very quiet place. It's a place where life is slow.
Obviously, if you make a low budget film on a budget of £500,000, you have certain limits. You have technical limits and you have financial limits. But the thing is with our story is that it's so strong that it does not really need that camera and technical extravaganza that other films have, because it is our story that's the most important aspect of the whole film.